Have you ever ended a long day feeling completely exhausted, but not from physical work? It's a different kind of exhaustion, a mental drain that comes from friction. The friction of pushing against a world that rarely bends to our will. Have you ever caught yourself wondering how much energy you waste every single day just resisting reality? That comment from a coworker that replays in your mind, the unexpected bill that throws your budget into chaos, the traffic jam that makes you late for something important. Each one is a small battle, a small expenditure of your precious inner resources. We are told to be strong, to be resilient. But so often, that advice feels hollow. It feels like we're being told to simply build higher walls against a relentless storm. We spend our days in a state of low-grade, constant reaction. A notification dings, and our focus shatters. Someone questions our decision, and a wave of defensiveness washes over us. We get stuck in these loops, these spirals over the smallest inconveniences, and they drain us, leaving us with nothing left for the people and the passions that truly matter. It feels like you're running a marathon every day, but you never actually move from where you are. And the most frustrating part? We know, deep down, that there has to be a better way. What if you didn't need higher walls? What if, instead of fighting the storm, you could find an unshakable center within yourself? What if you had access to a reset button for your mind? A button you could press not to erase your feelings, but to stop them from hijacking your life. A way to reclaim all of that wasted energy and redirect it towards clarity, towards peace, towards purpose. This isn't a fantasy, and it isn't a gift you're born with. A calm, resilient mind is not a trait, it's a skill. And like any skill, it can be trained. It's a muscle that, with the right exercises, can be strengthened day by day. It's the difference between being a feather tossed about in the wind and being the mountain that the wind must move around. The events of life won't change. The provocations, the unfairness, the chaos, they will always be there. But your relationship to them can be fundamentally transformed. In our session today, we're going to step into the mental gym. We're not here to lift weights, but to strengthen our minds. We will walk through 10 fundamental, unbreakable rules of mental fortitude. These aren't abstract theories from ancient books, they are practical, actionable principles, grounded in both timeless wisdom and modern science, designed to help you build that inner strength. They are the exercises that will help you find and use that reset button, allowing you to stay calm, focused, and in control, no matter what life throws your way. So take a deep breath. The training is about to begin. Rule 1: Master the pause. Let's begin with the most fundamental exercise, the one upon which all other mental strength is built. It's called mastering the pause. At its core, the rule is this: between what happens to you and how you react, there is a space. In that space lies your power to choose your response. And in that choice lies your growth and your freedom. Most of us live our lives without ever realizing that space exists. An event occurs, an emotion flares up, and we react, all in one single, instantaneous motion. It feels automatic, uncontrollable. But it's not. Imagine this scenario. You're in a team meeting, and you've just presented a project you've poured weeks of effort into. You're proud of it. As you finish, a colleague, perhaps one you already have a difficult relationship with, publicly points out a minor flaw in your data. It's not a constructive comment, it's a jab, delivered with a smirk. Immediately, your body tenses. Your heart rate quickens. A hot wave of anger and humiliation floods your mind. The automatic reaction, the one that feels so natural, is to lash out. To defend your work, to point out one of their flaws, to say something you'll almost certainly regret later. You feel that urge, that powerful pull to close the gap between the feeling and the action. But what if you didn't? What if, in that critical moment, you chose to create a space? Instead of reacting, you simply paused. You take one slow, deliberate breath. In, and out. It's only 3 seconds, but in that tiny window of time, something remarkable happens. The initial, fiery emotional impulse begins to lose its absolute power over you. You are no longer a slave to it. You can observe the anger, acknowledge the feeling of being wronged, but you don't have to act on it. From this place of calm, you can now choose your response. Perhaps you calmly say, "Thank you for pointing that out, I'll double-check the data." Or perhaps you say nothing at all, simply nodding and moving on, refusing to give their provocation the satisfaction of a reaction. In either case, you have won. You have kept your peace. You have mastered the pause. This isn't just feel-good advice, it's rooted in both ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience. The Stoic philosophers, like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, built their entire philosophy on this principle. They taught that it's not events themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. The colleague's comment isn't inherently destructive, it's our interpretation of it as an attack that causes our suffering. The pause is what allows us to intercept that judgment. It's the moment we ask ourselves, is this truly a threat, or is it just noise? Modern science shows us exactly what's happening in the brain during that pause. When you feel threatened or provoked, your amygdala, the brain's ancient, primal alarm system, fires up. This is the fight or flight response. It's incredibly fast and bypasses rational thought. But when you consciously take that 3-second breath, you do something incredible, you engage your prefrontal cortex. This is the more evolved part of your brain, responsible for logic, reasoning, and executive decision-making. That simple pause is like a circuit breaker. It interrupts the amygdala's signal and allows the prefrontal cortex to come online. You are literally shifting control from the emotional, reactive part of your brain to the calm, rational part. A study from Harvard, published in Nature Human Behavior, called this process cognitive reappraisal. They found that consciously reframing a situation, which is exactly what the pause allows you to do, is one of the most effective strategies for regulating emotion and reducing stress. So how do you practice this? You start small. The next time you feel a surge of intense emotion, frustration at your computer, irritation with a family member, anxiety about a deadline, commit to a 3-second pause. Just 3 seconds. Inhale slowly, exhale slowly. In that space, ask yourself one question: what is the most constructive way forward? Don't judge the feeling. Let the anger or frustration be there. Just don't let it be in the driver's seat. By practicing this, you are doing more than just managing your emotions, you are fundamentally rewiring your brain. You are strengthening the neural pathways that lead to calm and weakening the ones that lead to impulsive reaction. You are building the most important muscle in the mental gym. Rule 2, starve provocation. Now we move to an exercise that requires immense control, but pays dividends in peace of mind. It's the art of starving provocation. The rule is simple in theory, but challenging in practice. When life, or a person, tries to provoke you, your greatest show of strength is to offer it nothing to feed on. Every emotional reaction you give, every angry retort, every defensive explanation, every sign of frustration, is fuel. It's the very thing the provocation needs to grow, to escalate, and to ultimately control you. When you give it nothing, it withers and dies. Let's paint a picture. You're navigating a tense family gathering. There's that one relative who seems to have a special talent for pushing your buttons. They know your insecurities, they remember your past mistakes, and they enjoy bringing them up disguised as, "just kidding," or, "just trying to help." Today, in front of everyone, they make a comment about your career path. Still doing that little project of yours? I guess it's good to have a hobby. The words hang in the air, designed for maximum impact. The provocation is clear. The bait is set. The immediate, visceral urge is to bite. To list your accomplishments, to defend the legitimacy of your work, to explain why their condescending view is wrong. You feel your face flush, your jaw tighten. The fire has been lit. But what if you saw that fire not as something to fight, but as something to starve? You've mastered the pause, so you take that 3-second breath. And in that space, you recognize the comment for what it is, a desperate attempt to get a reaction, to feel a flicker of power by disrupting your emotional state. And you decide, consciously, not to provide the fuel. You don't argue. You don't defend. You don't even show a hint of annoyance. Instead, you offer a calm, neutral, and utterly boring response. A slight, knowing smile and a simple, yep. It keeps me busy. Then you turn your attention to someone else or take a sip of your drink, signaling with your entire being that the conversation on that topic is over. What happens in that moment is a massive power shift. The provocateur is left holding a lit match with nothing to ignite. Their attempt to control you has failed so completely that it becomes awkward for them, not for you. They are forced to sit with the emptiness of their own failed attempt. You have not shown weakness by staying silent, you have demonstrated insurmountable strength. You've shown that your inner peace is not for sale, and it certainly can't be stolen by a cheap comment. You have starved the provocation. The Stoics were masters of this. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." When someone provokes you with anger or pettiness, the most powerful response is not to mirror their behavior, but to embody the opposite: calm, dignity, and indifference. To react with anger is to admit that they have succeeded in dragging you down to their level. To remain composed is to show that you operate on a higher plane, one they cannot reach. You're not just controlling your emotions, you are making a statement about your character. You are communicating that your internal world is so solid, so well fortified, that external attacks simply bounce off. How do you build this skill? It begins with a shift in perspective. Start seeing provocations not as personal attacks, but as tests of your training. Each snide remark, each passive-aggressive email, each intentional slight is a new weight in the mental gym. It's an opportunity to practice. When you feel that spark of irritation, your first step is to pause. Your second step is to ask, what is the goal of this provocation? The goal is always to elicit an emotional response. Your third step is to consciously deny them that goal. This doesn't mean being a doormat. It means choosing your battles. And most provocations are not battles worth fighting. They are distractions from your peace. Why would you give your energy, the most valuable currency you have, to something so worthless? Starve it. Let it fade into nothing. And in the silence that follows, you will find your victory. Rule 3, adapt to reality. This next principle is a cornerstone of mental freedom, and it addresses one of the most profound sources of human suffering, our endless struggle against the nature of reality itself. The rule is this: you must accept that life will never be perfectly fair, predictable, or just. It will not follow your rules. The world is inherently chaotic. Your power lies not in trying to force the world to be fair, but in your ability to adapt to it as it is. Consider this common frustration. You are the most dedicated employee in your department. You arrive early, stay late, and consistently produce the highest quality work. A senior position opens up, and by every objective measure of merit, you are the most qualified candidate. You've earned it. But the promotion is given to someone else, someone with less experience but who has a better personal relationship with the boss. The injustice is staggering. It feels like a personal betrayal, a violation of the fundamental rules of fairness you believe the world should operate on. The natural response is to fall into a pit of resentment and anger. To ask, why me? This isn't fair. You might complain to colleagues, obsess over the injustice, and let bitterness poison your work and your attitude. This reaction, while understandable, achieves nothing. It chains you to the past, trapping you in a state of powerlessness. You are fighting a battle you have already lost, a battle against a decision that has already been made. All of your energy is being consumed by resisting reality. But what if you chose to adapt instead? After the initial sting of disappointment, you practice the pause. You acknowledge the unfairness, you don't have to pretend it's okay. But then you shift your focus from what you cannot control, the boss's decision, to what you can. You ask yourself a different set of questions. What does this situation reveal about this company's culture? Is this a place where I can truly thrive long-term? What new skills can I develop to make my value undeniable, not just here, but anywhere? What other opportunities are out there? By doing this, you transform a moment of perceived victimhood into a moment of strategic decision-making. You are no longer a victim of unfairness, you are an architect of your future, adapting to the terrain as you find it. This is the very essence of the Stoic mindset. The Stoics were not passive, they were intensely pragmatic. They understood that railing against external events was, as Seneca put it, like a dog tied to a cart, being dragged along whether it wants to or not. If the dog resists, it is choked and battered, suffering all the way. But if it chooses to run alongside the cart, it preserves its energy and its dignity, even though its destination is the same. The unfairness of life is the cart. You cannot stop it. But you can choose how you run alongside it. This is the heart of what the Stoics called the dichotomy of control, focusing every ounce of your energy on what is within your power, your thoughts, your actions, your choices, and practicing acceptance for everything that is not. This doesn't mean you endorse injustice or that you stop advocating for what is right. It is not an excuse for apathy. It is a strategy for preserving your strength. You cannot fight for a better world if you have exhausted yourself in unwinnable battles against reality. You adapt, you grow stronger, and you choose your battles wisely, fighting where you can actually make a difference. So, how do you cultivate this adaptive mindset? Start by noticing when you use the phrase, "It shouldn't be this way." That phrase is a red flag, a sign that you are resisting reality. When you catch yourself thinking it, pause. Acknowledge the feeling of frustration, but then consciously pivot your thinking. Ask, okay, this is the situation. It is what it is. What is my most effective next move? This simple shift in framing moves you from a position of complaint to a position of power. You stop wishing the map were different and start navigating the territory you're actually in. True resilience is not the absence of hardship, it is the art of adapting to it. Rule 4, own your narrative. We now arrive at a subtle but profound principle that tackles one of the most draining habits we possess, the compulsive need to be understood. The rule is this: stop explaining yourself. Own your narrative. You are the author, director, and protagonist of your life story. You do not owe anyone an explanation for the plot twists you choose to write. The more you seek external validation for your choices, the more you hand over the pen to others, allowing them to scribble their judgments and doubts all over your pages. Think about a major life decision you've made, one that didn't fit the conventional script. Perhaps you left a stable, high-paying corporate job to start your own business, or to pursue a creative passion. Or maybe you chose a different path regarding family, deciding not to have children in a world that often assumes it's a given. At the next social gathering, someone asks, "So, why did you leave that great job? Wasn't that incredibly risky?" Or, "You don't want kids. You'll regret that when you're older. Who will take care of you?" The immediate impulse is to launch into a defense. You start laying out a detailed presentation of your business plan, your market research, your deep-seated fulfillment. You try to convince them that your decision was logical, well thought out, and valid. But as you speak, you notice their eyes glazing over, or worse, a look of pity or skepticism. You walk away from the conversation feeling drained and somehow, less confident than before. Why? Because you have just surrendered your power. You have implicitly agreed that your personal, deeply felt decision is up for debate and requires their approval to be legitimate. You have allowed them to become the judge and jury of your life. Owning your narrative means you stop auditioning for a role in someone else's version of your life. It is the practice of radical self-trust. You understand that your journey is unique, and not everyone is equipped to understand it, nor do they need to. The reasons for your choices are yours alone. They are born from your experiences, your values, and your intuition. Trying to translate that complex, internal reality for someone who is only capable of seeing the world through their own narrow lens is a futile and self-diminishing exercise. The Stoics championed this internal focus. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to be indifferent to the opinions of others, as they were entirely outside of his control. His concern was living in accordance with his own principles, his own inner citadel. He knew that seeking validation from the crowd was a path to inconsistency and weakness, because the crowd's opinion is fickle and often wrong. True peace, he understood, comes from living a life that is coherent to you, not one that is understandable to everyone else. So, how do you put this into practice? You begin by recognizing that urge to over-explain as a signal. It's a signal that you are feeling insecure and are seeking validation. When you feel it, pause. Then, arm yourself with simple, polite, but firm conversation enders. When asked why you made a certain choice, instead of a 10-minute defense, try a calm, because it was the right decision for me, or I'm really happy with the path I've chosen. That's it. No further explanation is offered because none is required. You are not being rude, you are setting a boundary. You are communicating that your life is not a topic for public debate. The more you do this, the more confident you will become. You will start to draw your sense of validation from within, from the quiet knowledge that you are living authentically. Your life story is a masterpiece in progress. Don't let the commentary of hecklers in the cheap seats make you doubt the direction of your art. Own your narrative. It's the only one that matters. Rule 5, protect your inner state. This rule addresses a fundamental aspect of mental sovereignty. Your emotional state is your property. No one else has the right to control it unless you grant them permission. The principle is this: you must diligently protect your inner state from being manipulated or hijacked by external events or other people. Your mood, your peace, your focus, this is your internal territory, and you are its sole guardian. Have you ever had one of those rare, perfect mornings? You wake up feeling rested, the coffee tastes just right, and you feel a sense of calm optimism about the day ahead. You sit down at your desk, focused and productive, and then it happens. An email lands in your inbox. It's from a client or a manager, and the tone is demanding, critical, and borderline accusatory. Instantly, the entire landscape of your day changes. The calm is shattered, replaced by a jolt of anxiety. The focus evaporates, consumed by a loop of defensive thoughts and frustrated scenarios. A single event, a handful of sentences written by someone else miles away, has reached into your mind and completely altered your inner world. This experience is universal, and we often treat it as inevitable. We say things like, "That email ruined my day," as if the email itself contains some magical, mood-altering power. But the hard truth is, the email has no power. We give it power. The moment we allow someone else's words, actions, or mood to dictate our own, we are willingly handing over the keys to our own mind. We are becoming a passive participant in our own emotional experience, a puppet whose strings are pulled by the whims of the outside world. Let's look at what is happening inside your brain. That critical email is perceived by your nervous system as a threat. This instantly activates your amygdala, your brain's primal alarm bell. It floods your system with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, preparing you for a fight that doesn't exist. When you allow this reaction to dictate your mood for the next hour, or even the rest of the day, you are essentially letting that person's negativity live in your head, rent-free. You have given them a remote control to your own neurochemistry. They press the anger button, and you feel anger. They press the anxiety button, and you feel anxiety. Why would you ever grant someone that kind of power? The Stoics taught that this is one of the greatest thefts a person can suffer, not the theft of property, but the theft of peace. Epictetus famously said, "Today I escaped from anxiety." Or no, I discarded it, because it was within me, in my own perceptions, not outside. The anxiety wasn't in the email, it was in his response to it. Protecting your inner state means building a firewall between the event and your interpretation of it. It's the conscious decision to say, "I see that you are sending negativity my way, but I do not have to accept the delivery." How, then, do you build this firewall? First, you must practice mindfulness. You must become adept at noticing the exact moment the shift happens. Feel the physical sensation, the tightening in your chest, the heat in your face. That is the signal. Second, when you feel it, create distance through language. Instead of thinking, I am angry, think, I am experiencing a feeling of anger. This simple shift from, I am, to, I feel, separates your identity from the emotion. You are the sky, not the passing storm cloud. Third, ask a powerful question, is this person or situation worth surrendering my peace for? The answer, 99% of the time, is a resounding no. Finally, consciously redirect your focus. Get up from your desk. Take a 2-minute walk. Put on a piece of music that lifts you up. You are actively choosing to change the channel, taking the remote control back into your own hands. Your inner state is your sanctuary. It is the one place in the universe that is truly yours. Protecting it isn't a passive act, it's a daily, vigilant practice. It is the highest form of self-respect. Rule 6. Wield silence as a shield. In a world that is obsessed with noise, where we are constantly encouraged to speak our minds, to clap back, to have the last word, the act of choosing silence can feel unnatural, even weak. But this is a profound misunderstanding of its power. The next rule in our mental gym is this: you must learn to wield silence not as a weapon of aggression, but as a shield of protection. It is your most effective defense against pointless arguments, emotional manipulation, and the kind of verbal chaos that drains your soul. Imagine you are in a high-stakes meeting at work. A project has gone wrong, and a colleague, feeling the pressure, decides to publicly place the blame on you, misrepresenting your role and exaggerating your mistakes. The accusation is unfair, and it hangs in the air as every head in the room turns to you. The expectation is palpable. They are waiting for the explosion, the defense, the counterattack. Your body is screaming for it. Your mind races to assemble a list of facts, a timeline of events, a point-by-point rebuttal of every lie. The urge to speak, to defend your honor, is almost overwhelming. But what if you didn't? What if, instead of adding your own noise to the chaotic soundscape, you deployed your shield? You master the pause. You look at your accuser, not with anger, but with a calm, steady gaze. You don't speak. You simply create a space of pure, unbroken silence. 4-5 seconds. 10 seconds. It feels like an eternity. In that void, something incredible happens. Your colleague's aggressive energy, having nothing to push against, suddenly falters. They expected a fight, and you've given them a vacuum. The silence amplifies the foolishness of their outburst. Often, they will become so unnerved by the void they created that they will start talking again, attempting to fill it, and in doing so, they will begin to backtrack, to over-explain, to reveal the weakness of their own position. The focus of the room is no longer on you, the accused, but on them, the person who lost their composure. You haven't said a word, yet you have taken complete control of the situation. This is the difference between using silence as a sword and a shield. A sword is meant to attack, to punish, to make the other person feel small. That is the silent treatment, a passive-aggressive tool. A shield, however, is purely for defense. Its purpose is not to harm the other person, but to protect your own peace. You are not trying to win the argument in that moment. You are refusing to fight a battle that offers no prize worth winning. You are preserving your energy, your dignity, and your focus. Why get dragged down into the mud when you can simply stay on solid ground? The ancient Stoics deeply valued this economy of language. Zeno, the founder of the school, famously said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we should listen more than we say." They understood that impulsive speech is almost always driven by emotion, the ego's need to be right, the fear of being misunderstood, the anger of being wronged. Silence, on the other hand, is the ally of reason. It gives you the space to observe, to understand the true intent behind the words, and to decide if a response is even necessary. More often than not, it isn't. So, how do you practice this? It starts by changing your goal in tense conversations. Your goal is no longer to win the point, but to protect your peace. When you feel that defensive urge rising, commit to a 5-second rule. Stay completely silent for 5 full seconds before you even consider responding. During that time, ask yourself, will my words improve this situation, or will they just add more chaos? And be honest with your answer. Pair your silence with calm, confident body language. Sit upright. Maintain steady eye contact. Breathe. This shows that your silence comes from a place of strength, not fear. In a world saturated with empty words and reactive noise, the person who can command silence possesses a rare and formidable power. It is your shield against the pointless battles that distract you from your purpose. Wield it wisely, and it will keep your inner world safe and uncluttered. Rule 7, command respect, don't demand it. There is a fundamental human need to be seen, to be valued, to be treated with dignity. We call it respect, and we often spend a great deal of our lives seeking it. But this pursuit contains a profound paradox: respect cannot be demanded, begged for, or taken by force. The more you chase it, the more it will elude you. The next rule is a shift from seeking to embodying. You must live in such a way that you command respect, not demand it. It is not something you get, it is a natural consequence of who you are. Let's step into a familiar workplace environment. A new manager is appointed to lead a team. He feels the weight of his new title and is anxious to establish his authority. In meetings, he does most of the talking, frequently reminding the team of his past successes and his strategic vision. He insists on signing off on every minor decision and becomes visibly irritated when his ideas are challenged. He says things like, "You need to respect the process," which is code for, "You need to respect me." He is demanding respect. Now, consider another figure in the same office. A quiet, senior specialist who has been with the company for years. She rarely speaks up in large meetings unless she has something crucial to add. She never boasts about her accomplishments, but her work is consistently flawless. When a crisis hits, people don't look to the new manager, they instinctively turn to her. They know she will be calm, competent, and honest. She commands respect. The difference is everything. The manager who demands respect creates an atmosphere of fear and resentment. His team complies, but they do not trust him. His constant need for validation signals a deep insecurity, and people can sense that. It's like trying to grab a fistful of water. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips through your fingers. Demanding respect is an admission that you don't believe you've earned it. The specialist, on the other hand, understands that respect is an echo. It is the sound your character makes as it moves through the world. She commands it not through words, but through her actions. First, through competence. She is undeniably good at what she does, and there is no substitute for excellence. Second, through integrity. Her words and actions are aligned. She does what she says she will do. This builds trust, which is the foundation of all genuine respect. Third, through composure. She doesn't get rattled by chaos, as we've discussed, which makes her a beacon of stability for others. And finally, through her respect for others. She listens when people speak. She gives credit where it's due. She treats the intern with the same dignity as the CEO. She understands that respect is a mirror, it reflects back what you put out. This principle is a direct reflection of Stoic philosophy, which places all its emphasis on inner virtue rather than external validation. The Stoics categorized respect, reputation, and the opinions of others as preferred indifference. They are nice to have, but they have no bearing on your actual worth as a human being. Your worth comes from your character, your wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control. Marcus Aurelius never needed to post his title on the door of his tent. His tireless dedication to his duty, his humility, and his thoughtful governance were what made him worthy of his station. By focusing relentlessly on being a person of unimpeachable character, respect becomes an inevitable byproduct. It follows you like a shadow. So how do you apply this in your own life? You must shift your focus inward entirely. Stop asking, "Do these people respect me?" and start asking the far more important question, "Am I behaving like someone I can respect?" Conduct a personal audit. Are you reliable? Do you own your mistakes without blaming others? Do you listen without interrupting? Do you finish what you start? Do you act with integrity even when no one is watching? Stop chasing the echo. Focus on the source. Build a character of substance, of competence, of integrity. Live in a way that makes respect the only logical response. Don't demand it. Command it. The world will have no choice but to answer. Rule 8, choose your confidants wisely. Human beings are social creatures. We have an innate, powerful need to be heard, to share our burdens, and to have our struggles validated. This desire to connect is not a weakness, it is fundamental to our nature. But it holds a hidden danger. Not everyone has earned the right to hear your story. The next rule is crucial for protecting your emotional well-being. You must learn to choose your confidants with extreme care. Revealing your weaknesses to those who are incapable of helping, or worse, who might use them against you, does not heal you. It leaves you exposed, disempowered, and often feeling worse than when you started. Picture this: you have a deep-seated struggle you've been dealing with, perhaps a recurring anxiety about your future or a feeling of being stuck in your personal life. It's been weighing on you for months. Finally, you work up the courage to open up. You choose to confide in a longtime friend over coffee, laying out your fears and vulnerabilities. You are hoping for empathy, for understanding, maybe even a little wisdom. Instead, your friend offers a series of quick, dismissive platitudes. "Oh, just think positive," they say, or "You worry too much. Look on the bright side." Or perhaps they immediately pivot the conversation back to their own, less significant problems. You leave that coffee meeting feeling a profound sense of emptiness. You have just performed an act of emotional intimacy, and it was met with a brick wall. Your vulnerability was not honored, it was disregarded. You feel foolish, alone, and more burdened than before. This is the risk of indiscriminate sharing. We often mistake venting for processing. Venting is an uncontrolled release of emotional pressure. It can feel good in the moment, but it rarely leads to a solution. True processing requires a safe, reflective space. Sharing your deepest struggles with someone who is emotionally shallow, self-absorbed, or simply not equipped to handle them is like trying to plant a delicate seed in barren, rocky soil. Nothing will grow. Your vulnerability is a precious resource. To offer it to someone who cannot receive it with the care it deserves is not just a waste, it is a form of self-injury. The Stoics, with their emphasis on self-reliance, were keenly aware of this. While they valued friendship, they understood that your inner state, your tranquility, was your own responsibility to protect. The act of choosing who you allow into your inner citadel was of paramount importance. They believed that before seeking counsel from others, you must first seek it from within. You must first do the work of understanding your own mind. So, what do you do when you are filled with turmoil and feel the desperate need to let it out? This is where modern science offers a powerful and intensely private tool. Research pioneered by Dr. James Pennebaker at the University of Texas has consistently shown the incredible benefits of a practice called expressive writing. The concept is simple: you set aside 15 to 20 minutes and write, continuously, for your eyes only, about the deepest thoughts and feelings surrounding a stressful or traumatic event. You don't worry about spelling, grammar, or making sense. You simply translate the chaos in your mind into words on a page. Studies show this simple act can lead to significant improvements in mental and even physical health. It reduces symptoms of anxiety and depression, lessens feelings of stress, and helps people find meaning in their struggles. The act of structuring your chaotic feelings into a narrative helps your brain to process the experience, reducing its emotional power over you. It is a way of confiding in the one person who is always available and will never judge you, yourself. This gives you a powerful two-part strategy for dealing with your struggles. First, for the day-to-day processing, use expressive writing as your first line of defense. It's a safe, effective way to get clarity without exposing yourself. Second, cultivate a small, elite circle of true confidants. Who are they? They are the people who have proven they can listen more than they talk. They ask questions instead of giving unsolicited advice. They can sit with your pain without trying to immediately fix it. They have earned your trust through their actions over time. Your deepest vulnerabilities are reserved for them, and them alone. Vulnerability is a superpower, but only when used with intelligence and discretion. Do not cast your pearls before swine. Know the difference between a friend and an audience. Choose your confidants wisely, and for everything else, trust the profound, healing power of the written word. Rule 9. Disengage from emotional storms. We've all been there. You find yourself in the middle of a conversation that has ceased to be a conversation at all. It has morphed into something else, an emotional storm. The person in front of you, a loved one, a colleague, a friend, is no longer operating from a place of reason. They are completely engulfed by a hurricane of anger, frustration, or hurt. In these moments, your logic, your facts, and your calm reasoning are utterly useless. The next rule is critical for navigating these volatile situations. You must learn to recognize an emotional storm and have the wisdom to disengage. You cannot reason with a hurricane, you can only seek shelter until it passes. Let's make this real. Imagine a disagreement with your partner after a long, stressful week for both of you. It starts over something small, a forgotten chore, a miscommunication. But it quickly escalates. You are trying to stay calm, to explain your point of view logically. But your partner is not hearing your words. They are hearing a lifetime of slights, real or imagined. Their voice gets louder, their accusations become more sweeping and personal. Every fact you present is twisted or ignored. Every attempt you make to de-escalate is interpreted as condescension or dismissal. You can feel yourself being pulled into the vortex, your own frustration mounting. You believe that if you can just find the perfect sequence of words, the magic argument, they will suddenly calm down and see reason. This belief is a trap. It is the single greatest reason we stay in arguments that are causing immense damage. When a person is in the grip of an emotional storm, their prefrontal cortex, the logical, rational part of the brain, is essentially offline. The amygdala, the center of emotion and survival instincts, is in complete command. They are not looking for a solution. They are looking for an outlet for the immense pressure of their feelings. In that state, your well-reasoned points are not tools of communication, they are perceived as attacks, further proof that you don't get it. By continuing to argue, you are not calming the storm, you are feeding it with your energy. You have become the lightning rod. The Stoics taught that one of the hallmarks of wisdom is knowing which battles to fight and which to avoid entirely. They would see arguing with a person in an emotional storm as a form of madness. Why? Because the outcome is outside of your control. You cannot force another person to be rational. The only thing within your control is your own choice to participate in the chaos. The wise person understands that true strength isn't shown by winning the argument, but by having the self-control to not get entangled in a fight that has no possibility of a productive outcome. Disengaging is not an act of weakness or surrender. It is not the same as storming out in a huff or giving the silent treatment to punish the other person. It is a strategic and often compassionate act of self-preservation. It is strategic because it immediately stops the escalation and prevents further damage to the relationship. It is compassionate because it gives the other person the space they desperately need to feel their emotions without the added stimulus of your arguments. And it is self-preserving because it protects your own inner peace from being consumed by a fire you did not start. So, how do you do this effectively? You must learn to use calm, non-escalatory language that sets a boundary while still showing you care. You can say something like, "I can see how incredibly upset you are right now, and I want to understand. But I don't think this conversation is productive for either of us at this moment. Let's please take a 30-minute break, and I promise we will come back to this when we are both calmer. Notice the key elements. You validate their feeling, I can see you're upset, you state the problem in terms of us, not productive for either of us, and you commit to re-engaging later. Then, you must follow through. Physically remove yourself from the space if you need to. Go to another room, go for a walk. Let the emotional energy dissipate. You cannot control the weather in another person's mind, but you can always control whether or not you choose to stand in the middle of their storm. True wisdom is knowing when to talk, and just as importantly, when to step back, protect your peace, and wait for the sun to come out again. Rule 10, the cold mind advantage. We have arrived at the final and most crucial rule. It is the culmination of all the others, the ultimate expression of a trained and resilient mind. It's a principle that separates fleeting cleverness from true, enduring wisdom. The rule is this: you must understand that true intelligence is not defined by what you know, but by how you think when you are under fire. It is the ability to act with a cold, clear mind in the hottest, most chaotic situations. This is the cold mind advantage. Imagine a situation of true crisis. Not a minor inconvenience, but a life-altering event. You receive a phone call in the middle of the night. A loved one has been in a serious accident and is in the emergency room. You rush to the hospital, and your world is thrown into a maelstrom of fear, uncertainty, and grief. The air is thick with panic. Doctors are speaking quickly, using complex medical terms. Decisions with serious consequences must be made, and they must be made now. In this moment, two paths emerge. The first is the path of the hot mind, the untrained mind. This mind is completely flooded by emotion. Fear hijacks its ability to think. It cannot process what the doctors are saying. It might lash out in anger at the hospital staff or crumble into incapacitating despair. It makes decisions not from a place of clarity, but from a place of raw panic. This mind, while completely understandable in its reaction, is a liability. It adds to the chaos. The second path is that of the cold mind, the trained mind. This does not mean a heartless mind. The person with the cold mind feels every ounce of the same fear and grief. The difference is, the emotion does not consume them. Because they have practiced our previous 9 rules, they have built the capacity to function alongside their fear. They can master the pause, Rule 1, taking a breath before they speak to a doctor. They can disengage from the emotional storms of panicked family members, Rule 9, becoming a point of stability. They can adapt to the brutal reality of the situation, Rule 3, and focus only on what they can control. They listen intently, ask clear questions, and make the best possible decisions with the information they have. They are a rock. They are an anchor for everyone else in the storm. This is the cold mind advantage. This advantage is the ultimate reward of your training. It's the ability to access your full cognitive resources when you need them most. The person with the hot mind is operating at 10% of their capacity, crippled by their own internal state. The person with the cold mind can access nearly all of their capacity, seeing the chessboard clearly while everyone else is just seeing chaos. This is what defines true leadership, true strength, and true intelligence in the real world. This was the absolute ideal for the Stoic philosophers, to cultivate a mind that remained virtuous and rational no matter what fortune threw at them. Think of Marcus Aurelius, writing his clear-headed, compassionate meditations from a tent on the front lines of a brutal war. Think of Epictetus, a man who was born a slave and suffered immense hardship, yet whose teachings radiate a sense of unconquerable inner peace and logical clarity. They trained themselves daily, in small ways, so that they would be prepared for the great tests. This is the key. The cold mind advantage isn't something you can just switch on in a crisis. It is forged in the fires of your daily life. Every time you choose not to react to a rude driver in traffic, you are training. Every time you pause before answering a frustrating email, you are training. Every time you choose to listen to someone without judgment, you are training. Each of these small acts is a single rep in the mental gym. You are building the muscle memory of composure, so that when the 500-pound weight of a real crisis is suddenly dropped on you, you will have the strength to lift it. This is the purpose of our work here. To move from being a passenger in our own lives, tossed about by the waves of emotion, to becoming the calm, steady captain at the helm. It is the greatest gift you can give to yourself, and more importantly, to the people you love who will one day need you to be their rock. As we bring our training session to a close today, let's reflect on what we've truly been building. We've walked through 10 powerful rules, 10 exercises for the mind. But this journey was never about simply memorizing a list of tactics. It has been about a fundamental shift in the very source of your strength and stability. For most of our lives, we are taught to look for our anchors in the outside world, in our jobs, in our relationships, in our achievements, in the approval of others. We try to anchor ourselves to things that are, by their very nature, constantly shifting, unstable, and outside of our control. And so, we feel perpetually adrift, tossed about by the slightest change in the winds of fortune or the tides of opinion. The core lesson from our time together, the single most important takeaway, is that you have been looking for your anchor in the wrong place. The goal is not to find a calmer sea. The sea will never be calm for long. The goal is to build an unshakable anchor within yourself. It's the profound realization that true strength, true peace, does not come from controlling the world, but from mastering yourself. It is the journey from trying to calm the storm outside to learning how to find the unbreakable anchor within. This anchor is forged from the principles we've practiced today. It's the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can master the pause before you react. It's the inner peace that comes from starving provocations of the energy they crave. It's the resilience you build by adapting to reality instead of fighting it, the self-trust you gain from owning your own narrative, and the integrity that commands respect without ever needing to demand it. It is the wisdom to choose your confidence carefully, to disengage from emotional storms, and ultimately, to act with the profound advantage of a cold, clear mind when it matters most. This is not a one-time fix. It is a lifelong practice. Like strengthening any muscle, it requires consistency, patience, and self-compassion. There will be days you fail. There will be moments you react impulsively, get drawn into a pointless argument, or let someone else's negativity disrupt your inner state. That is part of the process. The goal is not perfection. The goal is progress. Each time you remember to apply one of these rules, you are doing another rep, you are making the anchor heavier, stronger, and more reliable. The power you gain from this practice is quiet but immense. It's a power that allows you to navigate the chaos of the modern world not with fear and anxiety, but with a steady and centered grace. It gives you the clarity to focus on what truly matters, and the strength to be a source of stability for the people you love. So now, the challenge is no longer just mine to you, it is yours to yourself. The training session is over, but the real work is just beginning. As you go back into your life, I want you to carry this new awareness with you. And let's not do it alone. Which one of these rules resonated with you the most today? Which one are you going to practice first? Let me know in the comments below. Let's start this training together.